The following program is paid for by America Reads The Mueller Report.
Hi, I'm Montel Williams. You've probably heard a lot about the Mueller Report, and you may be wondering what the facts are. What's actually in it? What does it actually say? Most Americans haven't bothered to read it. America Reads the Mueller Report will highlight and directly quote from the most critical findings in this report. No political commentary, no spin, so that all Americans are informed.
The Internet Research Agency, IRA, based in St. Petersburg, Russia, used social media accounts and interest groups to sow discord in the U.S. political system through what it termed information warfare that by early 2016 favored candidate Trump and disparaged candidate Clinton. The IRA's operation also included the purchase of political advertisements on social media in the names of U.S. persons and entities, as well as the staging of political rallies inside the United States. By the end of the 2016 U.S. elections, the IRA had the ability to reach millions of U.S. persons through their social media accounts. Multiple IRA-controlled Facebook groups and Instagram accounts had hundreds of thousands of U.S. participants. IRA-controlled Twitter accounts separately had tens of thousands of followers, including multiple U.S. political figures who retweeted IRA-created content. The investigation did not identify evidence that any U.S. persons conspired or coordinated with the IRA. At the same time that the IRA operation began to focus on supporting candidate Trump in early 2016, the Russian government employed a second form of interference: cyber intrusions, hacking, and releases of hacked materials damaging to the Clinton campaign. The Russian intelligence service, GRU, carried out these operations.
In addition to targeting individuals involved in the Clinton campaign, GRU officers also targeted individuals and entities involved in the administration of elections. Victims included U.S. state and local entities, such as state boards of elections, secretaries of state, and county governments, as well as individuals who worked for those entities. GRU officers targeted employees of a voting technology company that developed software used by numerous U.S. counties to manage voter rolls and installed malware on the company network. The GRU sent spear phishing emails to over 120 email accounts used by Florida county officials responsible for administering the 2016 U.S. election. We understand the FBI believes that this operation enabled the GRU to gain access to the network of at least one Florida county government. Around the time that the DNC announced in mid-June 2016 the Russian government's role in hacking its network, the GRU began disseminating stolen materials through the fictitious online personas DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0, and later released additional materials through the organization WikiLeaks.
In your investigation, did you think that this was a single attempt by the Russians to get involved in our election, or did you find evidence to suggest they'll try to do this again?
No, it wasn't a single attempt. They're doing it as we sit here. And they expect to do it during the next campaign.
The presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump showed interest in WikiLeaks' releases of documents and welcomed their potential to damage candidate Clinton. Beginning in June 2016, name redacted, forecast to senior campaign officials that WikiLeaks would release information damaging to candidate Clinton. According to Rick Gates, by the late summer of 2016, the Trump campaign was planning a press strategy, a communications campaign, and messaging based on the possible release of Clinton's emails.
WikiLeaks' first release came in July 2016. Around the same time, candidate Trump announced that he hoped Russia would recover emails described as missing from a private server used by Clinton when she was Secretary of State. He later said that he was speaking sarcastically. WikiLeaks began releasing Clinton aide John Podesta's stolen emails on October 7, 2016, less than 1 hour after a U.S. media outlet released video considered damaging to candidate Trump.
The social media campaign and the GRU hacking operations coincided with a series of contacts between Trump campaign officials and individuals with ties to the Russian government. Some of the earliest contacts were made in connection with a Trump Organization project in Russia known as Trump Tower Moscow. The Trump Organization pursued this project through at least June 2016, including by considering travel to Russia by Cohen and candidate Trump. Campaign Foreign Policy Advisor George Papadopoulos made early contact with Joseph Mifsud, a London-based professor who had connections to Russia, and traveled to Moscow in April 2016. Immediately upon his return to London from that trip, Mifsud told Papadopoulos that the Russian government had dirt on Hillary Clinton in the form of thousands of emails. 1 week later, Papadopoulos suggested to a representative of a foreign government that the Trump campaign had received indications from the Russian government that it could assist the campaign through the anonymous release of information damaging to candidate Clinton.
On June 9, 2016, a Russian lawyer met with senior Trump campaign officials Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and campaign chairman Paul Manafort to deliver what the email proposing the meeting had described as official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary. The materials were offered to Trump Jr. as part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump. The Russian lawyer's presentation did not provide such information. Days after the June 9th meeting, on June 14, 2016, a cybersecurity firm and the DNC announced that Russian government hackers had infiltrated the DNC. In July 2016, campaign foreign policy advisor Carter Page traveled in his personal capacity to Moscow. Page had lived and worked in Russia between 2003 and 2007. July 2016 was also the month WikiLeaks first released emails stolen by GRU from the DNC. On July 22, 2016, WikiLeaks posted thousands of internal DNC documents revealing information about the Clinton campaign. Within days, there was public reporting that the U.S. intelligence agency had high confidence that Russian government was behind the theft of emails and documents from the DNC. And within a week of the release, a foreign government informed the FBI about its May 2016 interaction with Papadopoulos and his statement that the Russian government could assist the Trump campaign. On July 31, 2016, based on the foreign government reporting, the FBI opened an investigation into potential coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign.
In short, your investigation found evidence that Russia wanted to help Trump win the election, right?
I think generally that would be accurate.
Russia informed campaign officials of that?
I'm not certain to what conversations you're referring to.
Well, through an intermediary, they informed Papadopoulos that they could help with the anonymous release of stolen emails?
Accurate.
Russia committed federal crimes in order to help Donald Trump?
When you're talking about the computer crimes charged in our case, absolutely.
The Trump campaign officials built their strategy, their messaging strategy around those stolen documents?
Generally, that's true.
And then they lied to cover it up?
Generally, that's true.
On August 2nd, 2016, Manafort met with his longtime business associate, Konstantin Kalemnik, who the FBI assesses to have ties to Russian intelligence. Kalemnik requested the meeting to deliver in person a peace plan for Ukraine that Manafort acknowledged to the special counsel's office was a, quote, backdoor way for Russia to control part of eastern Ukraine. Both men believe that the plan would require candidate Trump's assent to succeed, were he to be elected president. Now, they also discussed the status of the Trump campaign and Manafort's strategy for winning Democratic votes in Midwestern states. Months before that meeting, Manafort had caused internal polling data to be shared with Kalemnik. On October 7th, 2016, the media released a video of candidate Trump speaking in graphic terms about women years before, which was considered damaging to his candidacy. Less than an hour later, WikiLeaks made its second release. Thousands of John Podesta's emails had been stolen by the GRU in late March 2016. That same day, the Department of Homeland Security and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence issued a joint public statement. Quote, that the Russian government directed the recent compromises of emails from U.S. persons and institutions, including from U.S. political organizations, end quote. Those, quote, thefts, end quote, and the, quote, disclosures, end quote, of the hacked materials through online platforms such as WikiLeaks are intended to interfere with the U.S. election process.
At approximately 2:40 a.m. on November 9th, 2016, news reports stated that candidate Clinton had called President-elect Trump to concede. Redacted wrote to Dmitriev, "Putin has won."
On December 10th, 2016, the press reported that U.S. intelligence agencies had concluded that Russia had interfered in last month's presidential election to boost Donald Trump's bid for the White House. Reacting to the story the next day, President-elect Trump stated, "I think it's ridiculous. I think it's just another excuse." He continued that no one really knew who was responsible for the hacking, suggesting that the intelligence community had no idea if it's Russia or China or somebody. It could be somebody sitting in a bed someplace. Kirill Dmitriev, the chief executive officer of Russia's sovereign wealth fund, was among the Russians who tried to make contact with the incoming administration. In early December, a business associate steered Dmitriev to Eric Prince, a supporter of the Trump campaign and an associate of senior Trump advisor Steve Bannon. Dmitriev and Prince later met face-to-face. Another business associate introduced Dmitriev to a friend of Jared Kushner. Dmitriev and Kushner's friend collaborated on a short written reconciliation plan for the United States and Russia, which Dmitriev implied had been cleared through Putin. The friend gave that proposal to Kushner before the inauguration, and Kushner later gave copies to Bannon and incoming Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. On December 29, 2016, then-President Obama imposed sanctions on Russia for having interfered in the election. Incoming National Security Advisor Michael Flynn called Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak and asked Russia not to escalate the situation in response to the sanctions. The following day, Putin announced that Russia would not take retaliatory measures in response to the sanctions at that time. Hours later, President-elect Trump tweeted, "Great move on delay by V. Putin."
On January 6, 2017, members of the intelligence community briefed President-elect Trump on a joint assessment that concluded with high confidence that Russia had intervened in the election through a variety of means to assist Trump's candidacy and harm Clinton's. 3 congressional committees announced inquiries into Russian interference in the election. Then, FBI Director James Comey later confirmed to Congress the existence of the FBI's investigation into Russian interference that had begun before the election. The investigation continued under Comey for the next 7 weeks until May 9, 2017, when President Trump fired Comey as FBI Director. On May 17, 2017, Acting Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appointed the special counsel and authorized him to conduct the investigation that Comey had confirmed in his congressional testimony, as well as matters arising directly from the investigation. President Trump told advisors that it was the end of his presidency, sought to have Attorney General Jeff Sessions unrecused from the Russia investigation, and to have the special counsel removed, and engaged in efforts to curtail the special counsel's investigation and prevent the disclosure of evidence to it, including through public and private contacts with potential witnesses.
While the investigation identified numerous links between individuals with ties to the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign, the evidence was not sufficient to support criminal charges. The investigation established that several individuals affiliated with the Trump campaign lied to the office and to Congress about their interactions with Russian-affiliated individuals and related matters. Those lies materially impaired the investigation of Russian election interference. Michael Flynn pleaded guilty to lying about his interactions with Russian Ambassador Kislyak during the transition period. George Papadopoulos pleaded guilty to lying to investigators about the nature and timing of his interactions with Joseph Mifsud. Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to making false statements to Congress about the Trump-Moscow project. And Manafort lied to the office and to the grand jury concerning his interactions and communications with Kilimnik about Trump campaign polling data and a peace plan for Ukraine. Some individuals invoked their Fifth Amendment right against compelled self-incrimination. Even when individuals testified or agreed to be interviewed, they sometimes provided information that was false or incomplete, leading to some of the false statement charges. Some of the individuals we interviewed, or whose conduct we investigated, including some associated with the Trump campaign, deleted relevant communications or communicated using applications that featured encryption or that do not provide for long-term retention of data or communications records. The office cannot rule out the possibility that the unavailable information would shed additional light or cast in a new light the events described in this report.
And is it true that you tried for more than a year to secure an interview with the president?
Yes.
And is it true that you and your team advised the president's lawyer that, quote, an interview with the president is vital to our investigation, close
Yes.
quote?
Yes.
And is it true that you also, quote, stated that it is in the interest of the presidency and the public for an interview to take place, close quote?
Yes.
But the president still refused to sit for an interview by you or your team?
True. True.
And did you also ask him to provide written answers to questions on the 10 possible episodes of obstruction of justice crimes involving him?
Yes.
In mid-January 2017, Michael Flynn falsely denied to the vice president and FBI agents that he had talked to Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak about Russia's response to U.S. sanctions on Russia for its election interference. The day after the president was told that Flynn had lied to the vice president and made similar statements to the FBI, the president invited FBI Director Comey to a private dinner in the White House and told Comey that he needed loyalty. The day after the president requested Flynn's resignation, the president told an outside advisor, now that we fired Flynn, the Russia thing is over. The advisor disagreed and said that investigations will continue. Later that afternoon, the president cleared the Oval Office to have a one-on-one meeting with Comey. Referring to the FBI's investigation of Flynn, the president said, I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He is a good guy. I hope you can let this go.
In February 2017, Attorney General Jeff Sessions began to assess whether he had to recuse himself from campaign-related investigations because of his role in the Trump campaign. In early March, the president told White House counsel Donald McGahn to stop Sessions from recusing. And after Sessions announced his recusal on March 2nd, the president expressed anger at the decision and told advisors that he should have an attorney general who would protect him. That weekend, the president took Sessions aside at an event and urged him to unrecuse. Later in March, Comey publicly disclosed at a congressional hearing that the FBI was investigating the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, including any links or coordination between the Russian government and the Trump campaign. In the following days, the president reached out to the Director of National Intelligence, the leaders of the CIA, and the National Security Agency to ask them what they could do to publicly dispel the suggestion that the president had any connection to the Russian election interference effort. The president also twice called Comey directly, notwithstanding guidance from McGahn to avoid direct contact with the Department of Justice.
Under Department of Justice policy, the president could be prosecuted for obstruction of justice crimes after he leaves office, is correct?
True.
May 3rd, 2017, Comey testified in a congressional hearing, but declined to answer questions about whether the president was personally under investigation. Within days, the president decided to terminate Comey. The day of the firing, the White House maintained that Comey's termination resulted from independent recommendations from the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General that Comey should be discharged for mishandling the Hillary Clinton email investigation. But the president had decided to fire Comey before hearing from the Department of Justice.
The president told Russian officials that he had faced great pressure because of Russia, which had been taken off by Comey's firing. The president acknowledged in a television interview that he was going to fire Comey regardless of the Department of Justice's recommendation, and that when he decided to just do it, he was thinking that this thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story.
On May 17, 2017, the acting Attorney General for the Russia investigation appointed a special counsel. The president reacted by telling advisors that it was the end of his presidency and demanding that Sessions resign. Sessions submitted his resignation, but the president ultimately did not accept it. The president told aides that the special counsel had conflicts of interest and suggested that the special counsel therefore could not serve. The president's advisors told him the asserted conflicts were meritless. In early summer 2017, the president called Sessions at home and again asked him to reverse his recusal from the Russia investigation. Sessions did not reverse his recusal. On June 19, 2017, the president met one-on-one in the Oval Office with his former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, and dictated a message for Lewandowski to deliver to Sessions. The message said that Sessions should publicly announce that the investigation was very unfair to the president. The president had done nothing wrong. 1 month later, the president asked about the status of his message for Sessions. Lewandowski told the president that the message would be delivered soon. Hours after the meeting, the president publicly criticized Sessions, then issued a series of tweets making it clear that Sessions' job was in jeopardy. Lewandowski did not want to deliver the president's message personally, so he asked senior White House official Rick Dearborn to deliver it to Sessions. Dearborn was uncomfortable with the task and did not follow through.
In the summer of 2017, the president learned that media outlets were asking questions about the June 9, 2016 meeting at Trump Tower between senior campaign officials, including Donald Trump Jr., and a Russian lawyer who was said to be offering damaging information about Hillary Clinton as part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump. The president directed aides not to publicly disclose the emails setting up the June 9th meeting, suggesting that the emails would not leak and that the number of lawyers with access to them should be limited. Before the emails became public, the president edited a press statement for Trump Jr. by deleting a line that acknowledged that the meeting was with an individual who, Trump Jr., was told might have information helpful to the campaign, and instead only said that the meeting was about adoptions of Russian children. When the press asked questions about the president's involvement in Trump Jr.'s statement, the president's personal lawyer repeatedly denied the president had played any role. On June 14, 2017, the media reported that the special counsel's office was investigating whether the president had obstructed justice.
On Saturday, June 17, 2017, the president called McGahn and directed him to have the special counsel removed. McGahn recalled that the president called him at home twice and directed him to call Rosenstein and say that Mueller had conflicts that precluded him from serving as special counsel. You gotta do this. You gotta call Rod. McGahn said he told the president he would see what he could do. McGahn was perturbed by the call and did not intend to act on the request. McGahn had also made clear to the president that the White House counsel's office should not be involved in any effort to press the issue of conflicts. When the president called McGahn a second time, McGahn recalled that the president was more direct, saying something like, "Call Rod. Tell Rod that Mueller has conflicts and can't be the special counsel." McGahn recalled the president telling him, "Mueller has to go, and call me back when you do it." In early 2018, the press reported that the president had directed McGahn to have the special counsel removed in June 2017, and that McGahn had threatened to resign rather than carry out that order. The president directed White House officials to tell McGahn to dispute the story and to create a record stating he had not been ordered to have the special counsel removed. McGahn told those officials that the media reports were accurate. The president then met with McGahn in the Oval Office and again pressured him to deny the reports.
After Flynn withdrew from a joint defense agreement with the president and began cooperating with the government, the president's personal counsel left a message for Flynn's attorneys reminding them of the president's warm feelings towards Flynn and asking for a heads up if Flynn knew information that implicates the president. When Flynn's counsel reiterated that Flynn could no longer share information pursuant to a joint defense agreement, the president's personal counsel said he would make sure that the president knew that Flynn's actions reflected hostility toward the president. After Manafort was convicted, the president called Manafort a brave man for refusing to break and said that flipping almost ought to be outlawed. In January 2018, Manafort told Rick Gates it was stupid to plead, saying that he had been in touch with the president's personal counsel and that they should sit tight and we will be taken care of.
Your report expressly states that it does not exonerate the president.
It does.
And your investigation actually found, quote, multiple acts by the president that were capable of exerting undue influence over law enforcement investigations, including the Russian interference and obstruction investigations. Is that correct?
Correct.
From September 2015 to June 2016, Cohen had pursued the Trump Tower Moscow project and had briefed candidate Trump on the project numerous times, including discussing whether Trump should travel to Russia. In 2017, Cohen provided false testimony to Congress about the project, including stating that he had only briefed Trump on the project 3 times and never discussed travel to Russia with him. While preparing for his congressional testimony, Cohen had extensive discussions with the president's personal counsel who, according to Cohen, said that Cohen should, quote, stay on message, unquote, and not contradict the president.
After the FBI searches Cohen's home and office in April 2018, the president publicly asserted that Cohen would not, quote, flip, end quote, contacted him directly to tell him to, quote, stay strong, end quote, and privately passed messages of support to him. Cohen also discussed parts with the president's personal counsel and believed that if he stayed on message, he would be taken care of. But after Cohen began cooperating with the government, the president publicly called him a, quote, rat, end quote, and suggested that his family members had committed crimes.
Because we determined not to make a traditional prosecutorial judgment, we did not draw ultimate conclusions about the president's conduct. If we had confidence after a thorough investigation of the facts that the president clearly did not commit obstruction of justice, we would so state. Based on the facts and the applicable legal standards, we are unable to reach that judgment. Accordingly, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. The conclusion that Congress may apply the obstruction laws to the president's corrupt exercise of the powers of the office accords with our constitutional system of checks and balances, and the principle that no person is above the law.
The preceding program was paid for by America Reads The Mueller Report.